All right, hello everybody. So welcome to Gathering Folds. Today we're folding this pattern I designed named Dazzled. It's got this closed rhombus star in the center, and then it goes on to do interesting things before you have more closed rhombus stars further out. Now this version is folded on 32 grid divisions. I'm using a 48 division triangle grid on a hexagon for this tutorial. So that is something to keep in mind. We will be folding a bit more than this demonstration pattern. And if you only have 32 grid divisions, you can also work with me. You just won't get quite as far out as the rest of us. So one thing I want to show before we get started is the tiling for this pattern. There's some key features here that are not normal in origami tessellations, just the sheer number of different shapes in different positions. So we're working with hexagons, rhombuses, and triangles, and we see that hexagon, rhombus, triangle, rhombus, loop that we would be familiar with if we were using the rhombus in a position of twofold rotational symmetry, if you saw the same things on opposite sides. But in this case, there is another rhombus, which in this pattern will be on the opposite side of the paper, that is the position of twofold rotational symmetry. It's halfway between the hexagons. And you see this rhombus, 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 three rhombus squiggle. And there's this group of four triangles that is outside of these loops, or the initial ring around the hexagon. It's outside of any ring around any hexagon. So we have the ring of rhombus and triangle twists around the hexagon. We have this chain of three rhombus twists. And we have this cluster of four triangle twists. Those are the features of this pattern. In our case, all of the rhombus twists are closed, all of the triangle twists are closed. They're going to be on different sides of the paper for different positions, but we'll get into that as we start folding. So, onwards and upwards. Let's start with the closed hexagon twist, and I'm going to be looking at the crease pattern over on the side, but we're going to mostly focus on the paper. So if you have a particular side of the paper that you want to be the front side, the side with those closed rhombus stars, we're going to flip over to the back side. My paper is the same color on both sides, so I have less of a preference of which side is which, but I still have an aesthetic preference based on how I folded the grid lines. So I'll start with a closed hexagon twist. And I should say this is a fairly high level pattern. This is not suitable for beginners. I would say that you should be familiar with and have folded the Just Rhombi Flagstone pattern, which I also have a tutorial for before you fold this pattern. Even though it uses only basic twists, the density and the complexity of the pattern is definitely an advanced level situation. And feel free to write in questions in the chat. I do have an eye on the chat and can answer things as we go. And if you're watching the recording, feel free to write questions in the comments. Just make sure to put a timestamp so I can see exactly what you're talking about. So first off, with that closed hexagon twist, I'm bringing it to its tower form, where this surface is two spaces above the rest of the paper. I'm going to tap in the center and grab it on 3 sides and give it a sharp twist around. And you can see it doesn't usually go down completely flat the first time, but if you check underneath and start smoothing things out, check underneath for wrinkles, that is, you can get it to a flat state, whether it twisted smoothly or not. From here, we're going to flip over to the star side. And for this star, we're putting closed rhombus twists around our central hexagon at as dense of spacing as we can possibly use. So our new valley fold is going to be right in line with this existing mountain fold. It's going to go right to the closed hexagon hole, and we'll have a mountain fold 1 space further out. And this will define one side of our central diamond, which means that the through line is going, or more appropriately, coming from that central hexagon. Hi, Adipine. Glad you could join us. And so I'll fold my valley and my mountain fold, making this overlapping pleat. And I'll pick up, so I'm opening this pleat coming from the central hexagon, and I'll lift my new mountain fold. I'm doing a lot of pushing from the back to get that to come up. Lifting my new mountain fold, which has jumped over 1 grid spacing relative to the one I just put in. And I want to get both this mountain and the valley, and this will create a new overlapping pleat over here. Here, I really want to get it wrapped around that closed hexagon on the back. And once everything is stable, I can press to squash. And if you're already running into difficulty here, what I would recommend is going to the tutorial for day 25 of Advent of Test 2022 and practice the central star on a 16 division grid. Make sure your paper is a decent size so you can do this with more space between each grid line. So practicing it at larger scale is definitely helpful. Next, I'll rotate the paper so this pair of overlapping pleats is horizontal out to the right. And I'm going to start by lifting the hidden pleat up above my new rhombus twist. This helps me remember that there actually is a pleat there, so I don't forget to work on it next. Because the last thing we want to do is skip pleats as we work around. And I'm going to put in the same closed rhombus twist. My valley fold is coming straight from that closed hexagon hole. My mountain fold is going 1 space further out. And now, when I put in that new pleat and go to set up the next diagonal pleat of my rhombus, that is going to run right under the obtuse corner, the fat corner of this rhombus twist. And we're not going to run it all the way through. I'm going to run it just far enough that I can open up this pleat from my first rhombus, and I'm specifically pushing on the mountain fold from above and working that back to get a triangle wrap. Now my paper is fighting me a little. There's only so much I can do from this side of the paper to get that into place. So what I'm going to do is flip over. In this area, we need to make into a 3-way intersection of mountain folds And this is going to run a new mountain fold one space away from this existing mountain fold, but it's also going to run a valley fold through that existing mountain fold, which cancels out the mountain. We end up with a double depth pleat. So let me show that from the other side. We put in the triangle wrap, and now we have a double depth pleat under our first rhombus twist. And then we can settle all of the other pleats of the new rhombus into place and press to squash. There is a bit of a shortcut in setting up these stars, but in this situation it would only be applicable for the first star, and it's much harder for newer folders to do. I'm talking about setting up all 6 of these rhombi in standing form with the triangle wraps between them and then squashing them all. So I'm going to show how to do this one rhombus at a time. Then rotating, we want to remember that we have a pleat under there, so we're going to lift it to the top. And then fold the new rhombus twist, again with the valley exactly going to the closed hexagon hole. And I'm going to open this up just enough to put in my triangle wrap. There, that one worked more cleanly for me. And I also need the through line of my new rhombus twist. So, as if by magic, we have another rhombus showing up. And now I'll repeat that for the next rhombus around. Lift up the pleat I want to work with. Make an overlapping pair of pleats. In this case, there's 3 pleats overlapping by the time we add this new one. Oh yeah, there's so many possibilities for origami tessellations. I've probably folded 1,000 of them by now, and I'm still finding out new things and exploring new ways of making them. And we can press from the top to squash. Okay, so we've got 4 of these rhombus twists in place. Now the next 2 are going to be a little more challenging because we have this pleat running through this area. I'm going to start by lifting the pleat from the hexagon up above the rhombus I just made. And what I'm seeing here is that it's going to be very difficult to fold rhombus 5 while this pleat is coming through. So what I'm going to do is give you a little taste of that other method I was talking about of setting up multiple rhombi at the same time. And I'm going to start with this pleat that's going through everything. I need a valley fold coming from the closed hexagon hole, and that is going to immediately go into a triangle wrap. So from this side, we can actually see what's happening. It's these three-way intersections, or it is a three-way intersection of valley folds. And I'll go ahead and annotate. This is the grid triangle that's part of the central diamond. I've got my through line coming out this way. My valley is here, but it's tucking down into the wrap. And then I can open up just enough right there. So I want to have one spacing of mountain fold heading down into this hole. Oh yeah. Yeah, so Adobe is mentioning in the comments the backlighting is the highlight, because when you're making a new tessellation, it's hard to imagine how it would look with the light shining through. And that's part of what keeps me folding the origami tessellations, designing new ones, is each time I could put this pattern into Origami Simulator. I could see what it would look like on the surface, but I can't see what it would look like backlit in the paper that I choose, in the amount that I choose to fold, until I actually fold it myself. So that's part of what keeps me folding, that surprise and delight of holding it up to the light for the first time. And when I have that one grid segment of mountain fold past the central diamond, then I'm going to put in these valley folds, and I can set up the next rhombus. There's my central diamond of that. I can go ahead and mark this one as well. And I'm putting my fingers behind the paper to help push things into shape. And then I can lift out. And again here, I've got that triangle wrap from the very beginning. And now I have this existing pleat that needs to disappear into a triangle wrap. And that almost fought me enough that I had to go to the back. And we can get both of those two rhombus twists set up. Now I do want to show what this looks like from the back. And you might have noticed there I was correcting the valley fold to make sure it was precisely 2 grid spaces away from the mountain fold. It had gone off grid. So from the back, we have this shape where these three-way intersections have come right up next to the closed hexagon. But for now, we're squashing stuff on the rhombus side, on the star side rather, because we will see rhombus twists on both sides. So I'm starting each of my rhombus twists gently, pressing from the top, and then smoothing them both down more and more firmly. Oh yeah, gotta have something to look forward to while folding the grid too. And from here, now I'm going to flip over, and all of those three-way intersections are going to have 1 grid spacing worth of the double depth pleat fold over. So this is creating overlapping pleats, and that will form a closed triangle twist. This one is halfway under an existing double depth pleat. But once we get one of them out of the way, we can work around, and the rest of them are clearly visible. This one has some stress around it. Did my best to smooth things out a little bit more before I squashed. You can see a little bit of stress in there. And by stress, I mean that the triangle wrap wasn't very clean, and so there were some extra kinks in the paper. But smoothing out those rough spots, generally smoothing by stretching out, lifting from the bottom, is going to be the best. Once a wrinkle is ironed in place, it's not going to come out. Okay, and then from here, let's fold one of the rhombus twists on the back. So I'm looking over at the crease pattern and I'm seeing on a pleat coming from a rhombus. So that's a feature we saw in the tiling. The rhombus, like the rhombus chains are coming on a pleat from a rhombus in the center. I have 1, 2, 3 grid spacings, and then I hit the corner of the twist. I'm hitting the fat corner. So that is my central diamond. I've counted 1, 2, 3 spaces out, and then there's my central diamond. And I'm going to need a valley fold through here to match the mountain fold of my through line. And I'm going to open the pleat from the triangle, this mountain fold from the triangle. Let that valley fold continue 1 space more. It hits the existing valley, and we'll make a triangle wrap. And then I'll open the pleat below. That will continue as my through line. And everything is now in place for me to squash this next rhombus twist. Okay, from here, I'm going to flip over, holding the pleat from the triangle twist, or from the triangle wrap rather. And that triangle, you see it's overlapping the rhombus. I'm going to go ahead and squash the closed triangle twist. And then for my folding of this pattern, I'm going to let the rhombus star be the dominant feature. So I'm going to lift the rhombus up above that triangle that I just folded. Okay. From here, I'm going to use the references in the crease pattern to tell me what exactly to do next. And what I'm seeing, okay, I'm seeing a fairly straightforward twist that needs to be done on the other side. So I'm going to grab this pleat from the triangle and flip over so that pleat is still horizontal. And 1 space out from that triangle hole, I will have a new valley fold. We're putting in a closed triangle twist with a corner one space out from the triangle hole. The center is 2 spaces out from the triangle hole. We're going to have pleat overlaps with this overlapping pair of pleats. And press to squash. From here, we're going to flip to the other side. And that closed triangle hole, that is a center of symmetry in the broader pattern. So we will see 3 of the same thing on the 3 pleats coming from that closed triangle hole, which means that I need another closed triangle twist with a corner 1 space away. So if the corner is 1 space away, that's where the valley fold hits. And I'm going to open just the top of the 2 stacked pleats. Notice there's another pleat under there. And I'm going to run that valley fold 1 space past the mountain from the pointy end of my rhombus. And that will make a triangle wrap. And we're kind of pretending that this folded pleat is not even there. The folded pleat is just staying folded the whole time and passing straight through that triangle wrap. So we have 2 pleats overlapped going out to the edge of the paper. Yeah, so in the chat, Adp is saying that the closed hexagon is the hardest twist for them to get clean. That is a shared problem for a lot of people. I'd say the easiest twists on triangle grid are the closed triangle, open hexagon. And then the closed hexagon is a little more challenging just because everything's happening all at once and it does tend to buckle, especially if you have a softer paper. So now we did a triangle wrap. We're going to flip over. And this is a pleat coming from the rhombus twist. These little rectangular gaps here, those are the rhombus twists on the other side. So this pleat is coming from the rhombus twist. So it needs to go to another rhombus twist. And the central diamond of that rhombus twist is sitting right on top of my triangle wrap. Then we need a valley out from the corner of the rhombus twist. And now we'll open that pleat that has been patiently waiting. But one thing to notice is I'm just opening it locally here because that actually is the mountain fold that I need to finish the rhombus twist. So I'm opening it locally, letting the valley run through 1 more grid spacing until it hits this existing valley down below. And that will make a triangle wrap. By the way, I should say, for those of you who are not super familiar with triangle wraps, later on we'll encounter compound wraps as well. I do have a whole video focusing on all the different variations of triangle wraps. I think it's called basic wraps. And then there's also an advanced wraps video. And press to squash. Hey, nice, Hey Jupiter. So they're saying they just finished the 8th ring around the center on a pattern ripple effect that I designed on a 128 division grid, and it just so happened to be the right time to show up. So welcome. And now we have a triangle wrap. We're going to flip over, and that makes another triangle overlapping the central rhombus star. So that is the sequence of moves for this ring around the center. I'll let the rhombus star float on top, and then for this set of parallel pleats, which is 1, 2, and then a third pleat underneath, I'm going to flip over, start with the pleat from the triangle on the other side, and I'm counting 1, 2 spaces out to find the center of my new closed triangle twist. This triangle is the center of the cluster of 4 triangles that we saw in the tiling at the beginning. And then I'm flipping back and forth, putting in new twists. So flipping over, I'm coming 2 spaces out from the hole to find the center of my next closed triangle twist. I'm opening just the pleat that I'm putting, or just the next pleat down, and I'm putting in a triangle wrap. I'm leaving this other pleat fully folded the whole time. And squash. And flip. And now we're putting in a closed rhombus. So the central diamond sitting on top of that triangle wrap. I actually want to keep this mountain fold that goes further down, but on the side closer to the rhombus star, I'll put in a triangle wrap. And press to squash. One of the things that I just ran into there with my triangle wrap is because there's this other pleat so close, when you're folding the triangle wrap, it might want to kind of mush up and in. It might want to create conflict with the other pleat. So you just have to be a bit careful to get those layers all flat before you squash. And then this last triangle wrap turns into a triangle twist, and we can let that go underneath the closed rhombus. So we've seen the steps twice. Now it's time to speed run through the rest of the sides until we get back around to where we started around the center. So I've got my closed triangle. It's 2 spaces out. The center is 2 spaces out from the closed triangle hole. Flipping over, my new closed triangle has its center 2 spaces out, and I'm creating a triangle wrap, keeping the last pleat fully folded, which kind of makes it go in and around the triangle wrap. Then flipping over, I get my closed rhombus. And press to squash. And that also needs a triangle wrap. And flipping back, I have my new triangle twist. Oh, and I forgot with the last one to lift the rhombus star. Sometimes when you layer things, they come unlayered later, but when you have like a definitive, oh, I really want the layers to be this way, you just keep putting them there until they stay. So I've got the triangle twist with the overlaps and flipping over. And I knew to leave that as overlaps because it was an unfriendly overlap on the other side, and I knew the next twist was on this side. So this is a friendly overlap with both mountains closer together and valleys further out. So that's why I did an overlap instead of a wrap for that one. Partly also because I knew it would be a twist and a wrap next, although that does not generalize. And flipping over the new rhombus twist. So for today's tutorial, I'm doing full descriptions for 2 repeats of the moves in each ring, and then moving quickly through the rest because we are working on 48 grid divisions, and this is going to take a while. And flipping over, I've got my new triangle, which I can then tuck under the next rhombus twist. And continuing, flipping over. This time we have 1 extra pleat to work with. I've got my new triangle. And flipping over, I have a triangle and immediately a triangle wrap. And you see my triangle popped back out. So I can just tuck it again. And flipping over my new rhombus. And triangle wrap. And press to squash. And flipping over, I've got my new triangle twist. And here, I'm going to let that just overlap because the next thing I'm going to do is flip the paper over and fold a triangle on the other side. So flipping over, my center of this triangle is 2 spaces out. And my valley for the wrap is passing 1 space from the corner of the rhombus. That will wrap around. Yes, lots of nice crinkly paper noises and lots of wrap. And flipping over, I can squash the final triangle twist. So the difference in that last set of parallel pleats is I needed to do 2 more triangle twists. Not so bad. So now we actually have all of our positions of symmetry on the paper. We have our 6-fold position in the center. We have our 3-fold position in that closed triangle on the back that's in the cluster of 4. And then we have our rhombus in the position of 2-fold rotational symmetry. From here, we can figure out exactly what needs to happen in all the parts of the paper. And what I'm seeing, I'm just picking this set of parallel pleats. They're all identical. So I just pick the one that's already set up for me to work on. And this top pleat, so I'm going to work from top to bottom. Really, I'm working from the direction where if I send pleats this way, they're not getting close to things. But this one, if I send pleats this way, I could hit other twists. So I'm working from top to bottom. And that's because of differences in where the pleats connect to twists. So this triangle has to be identical to this triangle, and this pleat is specifically the one going up there. Now, I see that that goes to a triangle twist on the back, and I could go ahead and set that up, or I could go to the next rhombus twist. One caveat with the rhombus twists is that I don't know if the rhombus twist is going to be fully included in this ring around the center. So I'm going to default to working on the triangle twist first, because those always fit. Oh, and I'm seeing in the chat, Adipy has around 50 24 division grids ready for Advent of Tess. That is an excellent idea. And I actually forgot to mention this much of the pattern is an Advent of Tess pattern this year. And we will be using all 24 division grids again this year. So excellent move with having those grids ready. So I'm going to take my set of parallel pleats, flip over, and I'm going to look real hard at an equivalent rhombus, a rhombus in the same orientation, seeing what happens off of this now bottom pleat, because I flipped over, and I need to go 2 spaces on that mountain fold. 1, 2, to find the center of my next triangle twist. So next triangle twist. And what I'm noticing is that my new valley and this existing mountain fold make a 60-degree angle. So I'm going to need a compound wrap. So I set up the triangle twist. I let that I let that mountain pop down, and I'm not doing a direct triangle wrap. I'm actually doing 2 3-way intersections of mountain folds. And there's a 3-way intersection of valleys up top there and another at the bottom. So that compound wrap tells me that I can, in fact, fold the whole next rhombus twist. Flipping over, anytime you have a compound wrap, you can go ahead and fold the whole rhombus twist because you're not adding any new pleats. So I took this corner that was sunken down in the compound wrap, lifted it up, and boom, I have all my mountain folds already for the rhombus twist. And this is a rhombus twist that's a copy of one of the ones in the center. So you see exactly the same things on those copies. And then probably the easy way to do this is to fold the next triangle here and have a wrap back between it and the rhombus twist that I just put in. So here's our symmetric triangle twist. We always go 2 spaces to the center of the next triangle. And I'll open up send that pleat back in, and notice that I've restored this pleat from the rhombus that had been interrupted by this pleat running through first, so that I can then wrap around and get a triangle wrap under the rhombus twist. And press to squash. Flipping over, that also becomes a triangle twist, and we can move on to the next set of parallel pleats. Now this set of parallel pleats looks a little different than the one we worked on already that had just these 3 pleats, because we have another pleat down below. So there's an opportunity to contact another kind of twist. So here I have my symmetric triangle. I'm going to look at another copy of that symmetric triangle in the same orientation. And I'm looking to see what happens is these are these 2 triangles here. What happens on this pleat? And it's making a rhombus twist, and that rhombus twist is shooting a pleat back down under this triangle, which is not what we want to do. But I can see, okay, the pleat going up from the rhombus twist has a valley coming to that triangle hole, and we can make that a 3-way intersection. Adapi is saying during the weekend they folded Japanese weave on a 64 division grid. That's a fantastic pattern to fold many repeats of. And there's lots of variations you can do too. The twist in the gaps of the weave, you can make any size as long as they're all the same size, which is something that I'm talking about in Tessellation Academy this month. So here, I don't really want to jump straight to the next triangle twist. So I'm going to flip the paper over. And again, I'm looking for my copies of the same thing to see what's going on. I've got these 3 triangles around my position of symmetry, and I'm looking for pretty exact copies. But in particular, I want ones where I see both of these 2 triangles, and that's this up here. So I want to know what happens in this situation. Those pleats come together, and I see I hit this rhombus twist. And specifically, I go 2 spaces down from where this mountain comes out from under the closed triangle, 2 spaces down to the corner. So 2 spaces down, and I've got that corner where the valley fold hits. And again on this one, I really only have enough to set that up as a 3-way intersection, because if I do more, it'll send a pleat back through things. So now I have a triangle wrap that I can flip over and turn into that triangle that we did at the start of this ring around the center. And if you remember, that triangle comes with a compound wrap. So notice how I'm figuring out what belongs in this ring around the center by starting with a triangle, something I know has to belong because it's only 1 tile thick in each direction, and then using that to work around, and I'm using the existing pattern on the paper to decide what belongs next. to that compound wrap, we turn into a whole closed rhombus twist. And then, well, you can do it by flipping over, or actually what we did before worked well, where we did the triangle on this side. So I'll do that again. I want to have the center of my new triangle 2 spaces out from my symmetric closed triangle position. And that's going to leave a triangle wrap. So like I mentioned, I could have done it in the opposite order, where I flip over and do the triangle on that side and then come and do the triangle on this side. Both are valid. And flip over and triangle twist. And now I'm coming to the next location. The key thing to keep in mind here is that this is going to look like that's our symmetric triangle, but actually this one is the symmetric triangle. We see the same spacing with these 2 triangles, but we're doing something else with the rhombus twists over here. So from here, I'm looking for a copy of the symmetric triangle. I'm seeing it comes down, and we have this corner of the closed rhombus twist that I will set up as a 3-way intersection. Flipping over, I can use what I learned last time about coming 2 spaces down on this mountain coming out from under the closed triangle to hit the valley fold of the next 3-way intersection that's standing in for a rhombus twist. And then flip over, and I've got my closed triangle twist, and that causes a compound wrap. And flipping over, I'll turn that compound wrap into a closed rhombus twist. This is the one rhombus that I'm actually folding all the way. But yeah, like Adapi is saying in the chat, the shape that you use, different sizes of that shape, the spacing, using repeats on the same or the opposite side. There are so many choices in origami tessellations that really change how we do the design. And then I've got my 3rd closed triangle around my symmetric triangle position. And that causes a triangle wrap back under the rhombus I just put in. And squash. So now that we have those steps down, I'm going to experiment a little bit with streamlining and trying to reduce the number of times I flip the paper over. So I've got this 3-way intersection that's holding space for a rhombus later. And now I know from the last 2 times that I did it that I'm just going to have another triangle wrap on the other side, so I may as well go straight into the next triangle twist. So I can set up that triangle twist, have a wrap back behind, and a wrap in front. And now I've eliminated 2 times that I was flipping the paper over. I do need to flip over to fold this rhombus twist. And then I think the optimized thing is, while I'm here, continue like I have been doing and fold the triangle twist with the wrap back behind the rhombus. Yep. And that sets me up. So there's very few flips of the paper if you're fully optimizing. So I'm setting up this 3-way intersection for a future rhombus. And then the center of this triangle is 2 spaces out from the closed triangle hole under the corner of the rhombus twist. Wrap behind, wrap compound, triangle wrap behind, compound wrap in front. Oh yeah, there are lots of forms of origami, lots of methods to explore. Fun fact, I didn't even find out about modulars until the end of high school, and then I was folding modulars for 5 years before I learned about tessellation, or I learned about tessellations fairly soon after I learned about modulars, but I didn't start folding tessellations until 5 years of modular folding. So I've done a fairly large variety of styles, which actually is a very useful thing to have under your belt, to be able to fold a lot of different kinds of origami if you want to, for example, compete in the International Origami Olympiad competitions, which I did once, and now I submit patterns for other people to fold. And now I'm on to the last set of parallel pleats in this ring around the center. I'll continue with the optimized sequence. I've got that 3-way intersection, waiting for the next ring to become a rhombus, and then the center of the triangle twist 2 spaces out from the triangle hole with a triangle wrap behind and a compound wrap in front. So behind as in the direction I'm coming from, in front the direction I'm going to. And flipping over. I've got my next rhombus twist from the compound wrap. And now, if I do my triangle twist here, I'll have not only the triangle wrap behind, under that rhombus I just folded, but also a pleat overlap ahead. And this overlap is unfriendly from this side, so I know when I flip over to fold the next twist, it will be friendly. And flipping over, I'll turn the triangle wrap into a triangle twist. And here's my intersection where I've been putting the valley straight up for the three-way intersection on this side and the triangle wrap on the back. And that completes this ring around the center. So now I'm going to flip over, and in this ring around the center, we'll see some more of these rhombus twists and the start of the next hexagon twists. And Oedipe's saying in the chat that one day they like to fold tessellations, the next day modulars, then later detailed animals. There's so much to explore in origami. So I've got this three-way intersection, and the center, or rather the central diamond of that three-way intersection is going to sit right on top, or of the rhombus twist, it's going to sit on top of the three-way intersection. And I can look at where those pleats are going to go. And what I want to do here is, before I squash the twist, I'm going to open the next pleat and put in a compound wrap. And here again we have the same situation we saw before, where we have an existing folded pleat that's just kind of along for the ride. Then we can squash that rhombus twist on top. Flipping over, I'll take that compound wrap, I'm going to open it up, and I'm going to make this into a half hexagon tube. So I have the bottom pleat and actually the top pleat of the tube, but I need a new triangle wrap up above. I need this valley fold to sink down and go one space further and become a triangle wrap. And then I can set my half hexagon tube in place. One of the rules with folding in these pseudo tiling breaks in these rings around the center is that you never fold a whole hexagon at once. When you come to it, first it's half a hexagon or two pleats into a hexagon, and then you finish it in the next ring around the center. Flipping over, I have a triangle wrap, or a three-way intersection on this side, and that's going to turn into a whole rhombus twist. My valley fold's going to come out here. Notice this is a 120-degree angle, so that is going to need a triangle wrap. I'm going to be very careful as I open this, and notice this looks a heck of a lot like a compound wrap, but remember that this pleat is part of the half hexagon tube and we need to leave it there. So I'll focus on getting this triangle wrap, which is right next to another triangle wrap. We'll see that actually makes our life a lot easier. And with this new pleat, it's a stack of pleats, I'm trying to get these layers on top of the pleat for the half hexagon tube. So I'm opening this up, snuggling that all in and folding over to get this new rhombus twist in place. And if you were working on a 32 division grid, this is about where you'd be running out of grid. Because I can show you those three rhombus twists are where you run out. So then in here, flipping over, now I have two triangle wraps right next to each other. And what I'm going to do is this first pleat, I'm going to push over like I'm making an open triangle twist on that first triangle wrap, but that's actually going to set me up for the closed rhombus twist since I have a double triangle wrap. So that's a cool move. And then flipping over, I know I'm going to need a triangle twist on this pleat because this rhombus on the back is a position of symmetry and there's a triangle on the similar pleat on the other side. But if I do that, well, no, I have just enough space. To put that center of a triangle one space out from where the mountain fold comes out from the slit. Just enough space. But what I am going to do is go ahead and open this up so I can put in the new rhombus twist. Again, with the compound wrap ahead. And this is going to leave a triangle wrap behind. And we've got these layers that need to be one way or the other. And I'm going to prefer for the rhombus twist to be on top because it's what I'm actively squashing. And it's what I want on top in the long run. And now when I flip over, I can squash this triangle twist. And then open up the compound wrap, and that half hexagon tube will overlap with the pleat from the triangle. Remember, I need to open this up and pop that valley fold down so I can get a triangle wrap further ahead. So that's how you get around the corner. Oh wow, so Adipy's saying the largest modular ball they've made has 180 pieces, and it took 14 hours. When I was an undergrad, I always made my modular pieces during lectures to stay awake, and I think every semester, or most years, if not most semesters, I made a piece with around 1,000 pieces, and I did not keep track of how much time that took. Yeah, it was a little excessive. But I had a lot of spare paper, and I wasn't using like the prettiest or the most appropriate paper. I was using printer paper from excessively printed lecture slides and old resumes. So we got that new rhombus twist. Now we have these single wide overlapped pleats on both sides of the half hexagon tube. And we have a triangle wrap right next to another triangle wrap going further ahead. Flipping over, I'm going to take that mountain fold, shift it over, 1 grid spacing, put the valley on the far side, and boom, there's my next closed rhombus twist. Okay, next up, we'll flip over. I need, on this first pleat, a triangle twist with its center 1 space out. And this is going to cause a lot of overlaps. and squash. And now I'm going to go for the new rhombus. Notice again, I had overlaps in here. When I opened this up, I restored the pleat that would be coming out of the triangle enough so I could then erase it to wrap and do that triangle wrap around the pleat from the rhombus. And we'll do a compound wrap over the next pleat. Let's tuck that in nice and snug. And squash. This rhombus is sitting over all kinds of different numbers of layers. So I was doing some extra pulling to get that into place. Flipping over, I can squash the triangle that was wrapped. And turn this into a half hexagon tube. Turn the compound wrap into a half hexagon tube and add a third pleat that needs a triangle wrap further up. And flip. And now I take that triangle wrap and turn it into a rhombus twist. And by the way, in these tricky situations where you have a triangle wrap on top of a half hexagon tube, it looks like a compound wrap, but you're not opening this portion. For your first attempt, I would recommend drawing on the paper, because then it's very, very clear where your central diamond for the rhombus needs to go. And later on you can make a pristine copy, but the first attempt does not have to be the best attempt or the only attempt. And then those 2 3-way intersections turn into a rhombus, and now I'll start speed running the next portions. And actually, to save myself, I mean, not even some flips of the paper, just some setup time, I'll go ahead and set up both the rhombus and the triangle, although they need to squash into the same location. I'll squash the rhombus and then the triangle, and then I'll relayer them how I want. Yeah. Sometimes ideas look better in your head than on paper. But it did move quickly, and I didn't stress the paper very much. And then the compound wrap turns into the half hexagon tube, and I need to add the third pleat and get a triangle wrap going around that. And flipping over, I'll do the next rhombus twist that contributes another triangle wrap under the existing triangle twist. So yes, very dense spacing of things going on. And I see in the chat y'all are talking about Shinobi polyhedra. I always preferred the Bichetta star unit, especially for making larger and larger balls, because it holds together so much better. Then here, let's do another experiment. If I do the rhombus first and squash, and then put in the triangle and triangle wrap, that avoids the which one do I squash first problem. I mean, is it really a problem? Not so much. And then I can squash the triangle that was wrapped from the rhombus and turn the compound wrap into a half hexagon tube, pop the mountain fold down, and put in a triangle wrap, leading me forward. Ooh, something is not layered well there. Okay, that popped out of place. Yeah, anytime you feel a denser area than you expect, always check the layers before trying to just press it harder. And that will happen at various points while you're folding. There's not even like particular points that are easier or like that are more likely for layer conflicts to show up, because we just have such a dense pattern that there are possibilities for layer conflicts everywhere. Flipping over, turn this guy into a rhombus twist. And flipping over. Everything down here is nicely lined up, and we're heading into the last set of parallel pleats for this ring. So I'm going to go ahead and use the same steps that I did in the original sequence. Yeah, so gravity wells is the first pattern you made with triple open triangle twists. Yeah, it's a real eye-opener to realize that closed and open are not the only sizes available. I think Gravity Wells was in Advent of Tess 2025, if I remember correctly. And we're folding through so many pleats, y'all. There's just a lot of layers when you get out to several rings around the center. And our half hexagon tube is showing up exactly the same as before. Flipping over, we've got the new rhombus twist with the triangle wrap ahead of it. And I think the hard part here might actually be getting this pleat fully tucked in in between the front of the paper and the half hexagon tube. Got confirmation in the chat that Gravity Wells is from Advent of Test 2025. And flipping over, that new rhombus twist, as if by magic. One of the other interesting things for me about these twist sizes is relationships between different shapes. Oh, and here, for this last bit, we need a triangle on this side. So the center of that triangle is one space out from the rhombus slit. And we're going to need a triangle wrap. Under the rhombus. We can go ahead at this point and lift the rhombus above the triangle. Okay. Any guesses on whether we'll finish the whole star in the next ring around the center? The answer is no. We will finish the hexagon, but we will not finish the star. I will remember to go ahead and fold that last triangle. I could fold it over the half hexagon tube. Actually, that might be a more effective positioning. Having it over the half hexagon tube. Yeah, you know we don't. But sometimes it's a fun exercise to be like, what if? Okay, so what I'm going to do here is I'll flip over and I'm going to put in the next rhombus twist. And I know I need to have a pleat that comes and crosses this set of parallel pleats. That's going to be this valley coming from the closed triangle hole. I'll have my through line, or sorry, my central diamond in here. And we've got that line coming up to the obtuse corner, the fat corner. So we do get to fold the whole rhombus twist. What I'm doing here is I'm opening up the half hexagon tube and I'm going to do a triangle wrap on the top half of the tube. So this is a little bit tricky. Things will open up, then they'll kind of settle back in. And I'll make sure I have all the pleats for my whole rhombus. But this lets me be very methodical going from one side of the set of parallel pleats to the other. And press to squash. Flipping over. Now we have 4 pleats going into our hexagon. And oh yeah, star power is another great pattern to practice for this. So I'm opening up where I had those pleats overlapped and getting my 5th and 6th mountain folds coming into this hexagon, and there's another pleat crossing right over the top that I'm going to open up and put in. So let me put that back and start drawing before I move stuff. So what I want here is a new mountain fold going out, and that's going to come from this pleat that's crossing over. And I'm going to have a three-way intersection. I could go ahead and set it up as a whole triangle, but in this situation, I'll lay it down as a three-way intersection and deal with it a little bit later. And then under here, this pleat going up is going to do a triangle wrap under there. Now this pleat can lay over, and my platform at this stage is just one space above the table. So I'm going to rotate that around and down. Yes. And then I can fold the triangle twist that I set up just a moment ago. So now let's flip over and see this from the other side. I have 1, 2, 3, 4 of my rhombi, a three-way intersection, and another pleat. I'm going to tuck this three-way intersection under this pleat because we'll need to work on that one first anyways. So then coming down, I can look for what happens off of this pleat. It's going under the rhombus twist. I go 2 spaces to the center of my triangle twist. And that is going to cause a triangle wrap on the other side. And now that wrapped triangle is going to be my symmetric triangle in the pattern. So I'm going to take that, flip over, and squash the new triangle twist. And continue onwards. So my symmetric triangle, I know what goes on that plate. Flipping over, I'm going to come 2 spaces out to find the center of my new triangle twist. And now this is overlapped with my half hexagon tube and associated pleats. I think the easy thing to do here is go ahead and set up the rhombus and have a triangle wrap back here instead of having a wrap into the rhombus. I mean, it could go either way, but I'm partial to going ahead and working on the side that I'm on. So there's my central diamond right next to that closed triangle hole. I'm going to need a valley fold down through here. Yeah, time flies. And I want to have this wrapped up in the next half hour because I have an office hour with my students. And opening up, I will do a triangle wrap in there. Gotta get a clean 3-way intersection of valleys, which that is not clean yet. So I'm actually going to relieve stress elsewhere first, and then flip over and see how that corner is a little messy. I'm going to smooth that out, make sure those folds are on grid lines to the best of my ability, and then come back and squash the rhombus. And I get another chance to smooth that out in a little bit. Okay, so flipping over, One thing I want to mention is that, so if we take this triangle and say, okay, that's exactly the same as this triangle up here, then what's going on over here is a three-way intersection holding space for a future rhombus. So we do not have to fold anything there right now. And I can then come and resolve the pleats of the hexagon, but there's this pleat crossing right over the top that I will open up, and I'm looking for a single space between parallel mountain folds in here. That three-way intersection can lay down flat, and I'll have a triangle wrap underneath there. Very stacked accordion pleat in here with another pleat wrapped into it. And I'm going to make sure that that hexagon is rotated all the way around before I lay it down flat, and then I can squash that triangle that I set up with it. Definitely easier to go ahead and set up that triangle and triangle wrap and squash it while the hexagon is up than it is after the hexagon is down. Flipping over, I'll tuck that pleat under, and now I have my new triangle twist with the center 2 spaces out from the triangle hole, and triangle wrap also. Flipping over, I'll squash the triangle on the back, which is my symmetric triangle for the whole thing, and continue. I'm going to move quite a bit faster for the rest of the ring around the center. We have seen 2 repeats of our set of parallel pleats. I'm going to opt for the same sequence of moves. And again, doing this cleanly is somewhat dependent on how strong your paper is. And press to squash. You can definitely get a cleaner triangle wrap if the rest of the pleats of the rhombus are already set up. Flipping over, I'm finding the remaining pleats of the hexagon and then setting up the 3-way intersection above and triangle wrap below, making sure that's all the way rotated before squashing the triangle twist. And flipping, I'll tuck that pleat under. And I've got my new triangle twist and triangle wrap. So that went a lot faster. And squash the triangle on the back, which is my symmetric triangle. So when I go to the next side, I can immediately start with a closed triangle twist. And then there's the new rhombus. And the wrap behind. And and another rhombus around the hexagon that puts a triangle wrap in to that hexagon. Oh, thanks, Ishan. I've been folding origami since I was in 4th grade is when it really took off. So over 20 years now. And I always find new and interesting things to fold. Right now, I'm finishing this ring around the center quickly so we can get to the final ring around the center. And got triangles on triangles and flipping. Oh yeah, definitely a bunch of experience. And even with a bunch of experience in origami, a lot of the tessellation moves are not super familiar. So it's a whole other set of skills to learn tessellations. And I've been folding tessellations for, gosh, next year it'll be 10 years, so 9 years now. I'm coming up very quickly on having spent more time folding tessellations than other kinds of origami. Oh, thank you, Adipi. There's not very many tessellation channels. And I know some of them say things like pre-crease everything and then collapse. Which, if we were trying to collapse all of this, that would be an even bigger challenge than folding the twist directly. Not to mention actually having to count and see where each of these twists should go. Okay, we're getting close to finishing this ring around the center. I have one more set of parallel pleats. So I'm starting that set of parallel pleats exactly the same way that we have been. Yeah, the almost no pre-creasing I intentionally chose as like the signature of my designs. Yeah, I like to joke that to collapse a tessellation, you fold the grid, you pre-crease everything, then a miracle occurs, and you have a finished tessellation. But with folding twist by twist, you fold the grid, you fold your first twist, you keep folding more twists until you have pleat overlaps. You resolve the pleat overlaps, and then you're in a loop of folding more twists and then resolving the overlaps. And then you keep resolving overlaps as long as there's overlaps, and then you fold some more twists, and eventually, when you finish the amount that you want to fold, you have a finished tessellation. No miracles required. Okay, so here I'm getting to the part that's a little different, finishing this ring around the center. I've got my closed triangle on the back. I'll flip over and I want to do my closed triangle on the front, which is usually starting the next set of parallel pleats, and that's going to be 2 spaces from that closed triangle hole, which is a symmetric point in the pattern. And I have a triangle wrap underneath, and that is the triangle wrap that I had been getting when I folded these rhombi. So that concludes this ring around the center. We'll do one more ring, get those stars finished, and that'll be all for the tutorial. So starting with this triangle wrap, I'll flip over and turn that into a whole rhombus twist. The central diamond is sitting on top of the 3-way intersection, the triangle wrap on this side. And then we can flip back, and we need a new triangle twist in here. So the center is going to be 1 space out. And remember, this rhombus on the back is also in a symmetric position, so I can read exactly from the other side of the rhombus. Oh, and I appreciate that you like the streams coming out on a regular basis. And opening up, we're going to get a triangle wrap in here. And squash. Yeah. Yeah, so I'm seeing in the chat, like, very few origami-based channels focus on demonstrating or promoting or teaching any particular style. Whereas I'm laser focused on the tessellations. I think that's because most channels are more focused on bringing people into folding, but I'm more focused on advancing the skill level of the community of tessellation folders. Okay, so here I think we do need to fold that triangle twist. And notice we've got this accordion pleat sitting under there. I am going to do a compound wrap because my valley fold does make a 60-degree angle. So when I open this up, I'm opening just the top pleat, the first one that I encounter. Then I can do a compound wrap and pop that triangle into place. And now I'm going to need to open and set up both of those rhombus twists, just like we did in the central star, just because they're on top of each other. This time, okay, so the easy way to open that, put that back how it was, I'm opening this top pleat and popping down so I have the 1 space of mountain fold out from my new central diamond. And then the next central diamond is sitting down here in the compound wrap. Scribble, scribble. I'm going to pop that up. Notice I'm popping the mountain fold up out here. And instead of letting it run all the way out to the edge, because that tends to rip. And I'm settling this area nestled in underneath, that's the triangle wrap. We've got a double depth pleat going out this way. And here I'm running into a new pleat, and I'm going to put in a compound wrap around the pleat from the triangle. And that'll get us both of these rhombus twists, finishing the star. And now flipping over, we can squash the triangle wrap between those rhombus twists. And this compound wrap turns into a rhombus twist. Okay. We still have these pleats converging. And I think I need a twist on the other side. Yeah, I need, well, okay. The next thing that would happen here is a corner of the rhombus from the next star. Come down there, and that we would be setting up as a three-way intersection anyways. So that's just gonna be a little nub sitting there. And then we can flip over and we get a triangle in here. Let's see, opposite side of this rhombus. Yes, that triangle. Yeah, it was just hard to see that there was another pleat there. And then this three-way intersection that we had left for our new rhombus is going to turn into a full rhombus. And if we had more grid, we would have a whole compound wrap in there. So this is just a little swivel that gets the pleat shifted over and not interfering with things. And flipping over, this guy is the compound wrap that we set up just a moment ago. That would turn into a whole, actually, no, it's a compound wrap. So it would be this guy. Yeah, because we are not sending more new pleats this way. We're not doing that. So if you had more grid, this would be a whole rhombus twist there. If you wanted to, because we're close to the edge, you could do a partial rhombus twist here as well. I'm going to choose not to, just because the aesthetics of it aren't going to be substantially changed. And continuing on around, now I've got my triangle on this plate with the center one space out from the emergence from the slit. Pop that open and get a triangle wrap. And you can see why I don't typically do tutorials on 48 grid divisions, because they do tend to go to 2 hours, especially if they're fairly complex. So from here, I'm going over to that triangle wrap that I put in. It's over an accordion pleat. So I'll open up just one layer of that accordion, put in a compound wrap. And then flipping over, I'm going to open up the top layer on this side of that accordion and start finding my new rhombus twist that's further down. And then I'll pop up from the compound wrap and make sure I get a triangle wrap in between the two. So this is my double depth pleat coming out to the edge. And I need another compound wrap moving forward to get my next star completed. So we've seen the sequence to get around the corner. For the last set of parallel pleats, we'll be doing basically the same thing that we did in the corner, but with a slightly different cutoff point. It'll all be, you know, semi-arbitrary decisions about what precisely you're going to do in the corner of the paper. Some slight aesthetic choices, but you still have to deal with the pleats coming in. So that is going to be, I'm going to call it homework. So I'll show it one more time. This acute corner is one space past the slit. So one space past the slit, I would have a three-way intersection if I was folding this on even more grid and a triangle wrap. And then flipping back, that is going to be a triangle twist with the corner of the twist right at the edge of the paper. So that's going to be interesting to get it squashed cleanly. And then the next three-way intersection is for the rhombus twist. And it comes down here and has a compound wrap. And the key thing about the compound wrap is how you open it. So it's very tempting, since we don't have all the information, to treat that just as a triangle wrap, but we do need to open out the middle and treat it as a compound wrap to get that partial squash. Or you could just leave it wrapped and decide that that's how you want your edge to look. So I am running out of time for today. So that is all that I'm going to show with this pattern. But we can look at the backlighting. So once we make it all the way around, we will finish those stars. And oh, and welcome, Zach. Glad to see you. And if you are part of one of my courses that have office hours, so Basic Twist Bootcamp, Tessellation Starter Sequence, Tessellations by Tiles, then you can join me for that session right after this. But yeah, we've got those stars with the little windows, these areas in the middle, and looking on this side, we've got the hexagons with the triangles, these rhombi bridging between these groups of hexagon plus 6 triangles, and these triangles in between the rhombi on this side. So that's what's going on with Dazzled. I hope you enjoy folding it, and I'd love to see your folds. Feel free to tag me on Instagram. I respond the most quickly on Instagram, but you can also tag me on Facebook or just send it to my email. You can find my contact info on gatheringfolds.com. So at Gathering Folds on all the socials. Happy folding, everyone, and see you later. Bye.